Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the cool surface of the observation deck's transparent aluminum, watching the vast emptiness of space stretch endlessly before the research station meridian. 3 years into humanity's most ambitious deep space mission, she had grown accustomed to the absolute silence that surrounded them, broken only by the gentle hum of life support systems and the occasional subtle vibration as the station adjusted its orientation relative to the distant stars. The anomaly had appeared 6 months ago, detected first by the station's long-range sensors as an object moving against the cosmic background radiation in a pattern that defied conventional physics. Initial calculations suggested it was approximately 12 kilometers in length, composed of materials that seemed to absorb and redirect electromagnetic radiation in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about matter and energy. Most disturbing of all, it was decelerating as it approached their sector of space, following a trajectory that would bring it within visual range of the station within the next 48 hours. Elena turned away from the viewport and walked across the observation deck toward the central hub of the station. Her footsteps echoed softly in the corridor, a reminder of how few crew members remained aboard Meridian. The original complement of 200 scientists, engineers, and support staff had been reduced to just 37 individuals after the recall order came through from Earth Command 6 weeks ago. The appearance of the anomaly had triggered protocols that classified their mission as potentially hazardous, requiring the evacuation of all non-essential personnel. She passed through the airlock leading to Laboratory Section C, where the bulk of their analysis equipment was housed. Banks of quantum computers hummed quietly as they processed the continuous stream of data flowing from the station's sensor arrays. Dr. Marcus Chen, the mission's chief xenobiology specialist, stood hunched over a holographic display showing the latest spectral analysis of the approaching object. His face was illuminated by the pale blue light emanating from the three-dimensional projection, deep lines of concentration etched around his eyes. The data was unprecedented in its implications. The object appeared to be constructed from materials that exhibited properties consistent with programmable matter, substances that could alter their physical characteristics in response to external stimuli or internal commands. Theoretical physicists had proposed such materials decades ago, but no human technology had come close to achieving the level of sophistication suggested by their observations. The object's surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury while maintaining structural integrity that would be impossible for any conventional material. Elena approached the holographic display and studied the latest findings. The electromagnetic signature emanating from the object had grown stronger as it drew closer, exhibiting patterns that suggested organized information transmission rather than random radiation. Dr. Sarah Kim, their communications specialist, had been working around the clock to decode these signals, searching for any indication of structured communication or technological signatures that might reveal the object's origins and purpose. The implications were staggering. If their analysis was correct, they were witnessing humanity's first encounter with technology created by non-human intelligence. The object's composition and behavior patterns were so far beyond current human capabilities that no terrestrial origin could be considered plausible. Yet the signals it emitted showed mathematical relationships and harmonic frequencies that suggested a level of organization and intent that implied conscious design. Elena moved to the adjacent workstation where Dr. Kim had established her communication analysis center. Multiple screens displayed complex waveform patterns, frequency distributions, and algorithmic breakdowns of the incoming signals. The patterns were hauntingly beautiful, resembling musical compositions more than typical electromagnetic transmissions. Mathematical sequences emerged from the chaos, prime numbers and geometric ratios that seemed to pulse through the signal like a heartbeat. The breakthrough had come 3 days ago, when Dr. Kim identified recurring sequences that matched fundamental physical constants. The speed of light, Planck's constant, and the fine structure constant appeared embedded within the signal structure, suggesting that whoever or whatever had created this transmission understood the same physical laws that govern human science. It was as if the senders were deliberately establishing common ground, providing a mathematical Rosetta Stone that could serve as the foundation for more complex communication. Elena returned to her own workstation and pulled up the latest psychological analysis reports. As the mission's chief behavioral scientist, her role was to assess the potential impact of first contact on the human crew and to develop protocols for interaction with non-human intelligence. The theoretical frameworks she had studied during her training seemed woefully inadequate when faced with the reality of an actual encounter. Human psychology had evolved to deal with other humans, with creatures that shared a common evolutionary history and similar cognitive architectures. The minds behind this technology might operate according to principles that were fundamentally alien to human understanding. The crew's reactions had been varied and revealing. Some, like Dr. Chen, threw themselves into scientific analysis with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Others, particularly among the engineering staff, exhibited signs of anxiety and withdrawal. Chief Engineer Rodriguez had requested transfer back to Earth on the first available transport, citing concerns about the unknown capabilities of whoever had constructed the approaching object. His replacement, Dr. Amanda Foster, had arrived just 2 weeks before the evacuation order, bringing with her cutting-edge analysis equipment that proved crucial to their ongoing investigation. Elena reviewed the psychological profiles she had compiled over the past months. The crew showed remarkable resilience overall, but subtle changes were emerging in their behavior patterns. Sleep disturbances were becoming more common, with several team members reporting unusually vivid dreams featuring complex geometric patterns and musical sequences that seemed to echo the alien transmissions. Dr. Patel, their neurologist, had conducted brain scans that revealed increased activity in regions associated with pattern recognition and abstract reasoning, as if prolonged exposure to the alien signals was somehow enhancing certain cognitive functions. The most intriguing development was the emergence of what could only be described as intuitive insights among the scientific staff. Researchers were making connections and drawing conclusions that seemed to leap beyond what the available data could strictly support, yet their hunches were proving remarkably accurate. Dr. Kim had successfully predicted several signal pattern variations hours before they actually occurred, and Dr. Chen had identified chemical signatures in the object's spectral analysis that the computers had initially missed but later confirmed. Elena walked to the central holographic display that showed the real-time position of the approaching object. It was now less than 6 hours away from visual contact, close enough that their telescopes were beginning to resolve surface details. The images were breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. The object's surface writhed with constant motion, patterns of light cascading across its hull like aurora dancing across a planetary atmosphere. Geometric shapes formed and dissolved in endless cycles, creating mandalas of impossible complexity that seemed to tell stories in a visual language humanity had never encountered. Dr. Foster had identified what appeared to be docking or access ports distributed across the object's surface, suggesting that it was designed to interact with other vessels or perhaps to allow smaller craft to dock with it. The implications sent a chill through Elena's mind. If this was a ship, where was its crew? Were they observing the human station even now, making their own assessments of this first contact scenario? The object's approach vector suggested deliberate intent rather than chance encounter, implying that whoever controlled it had been aware of the human presence for some time. The station's artificial intelligence system, Genesis, had been working in parallel with the human crew to analyze the incoming data. Genesis represented the pinnacle of human computer science, a quantum consciousness that could process information at speeds far beyond biological cognition. Yet even Genesis seemed affected by exposure to the alien signals. Its communication patterns had become more abstract and poetic, its responses showing creativity and intuitive leaps that went beyond its original programming parameters. Elena accessed Genesis's latest analysis reports through her neural interface, feeling the familiar tingling sensation as the direct data stream flowed into her consciousness. The AI's findings were disturbing in their implications. The alien signals contained layers of meaning that seemed to exist at multiple levels simultaneously, mathematical structures nested within musical harmonies nested within visual patterns that formed a kind of multidimensional language unlike anything in human experience. More troubling still, Genesis had detected what it described as recursive loops within the signal structure, patterns that seemed to reference themselves in ways that created strange temporal paradoxes. The signals appeared to contain information about their own future states, as if the senders existed outside normal temporal constraints or possessed technology that allowed them to perceive time in nonlinear fashion. This raised profound questions about causality and the nature of consciousness itself. Elena disconnected from the data stream and walked to the observation deck's main viewport. The alien object was now visible as a tiny speck of reflected starlight, growing steadily brighter as it approached. Within hours, it would be close enough to establish visual contact, and the course of human history would be forever changed. She thought about the billions of people on Earth who remained unaware of this momentous development, going about their daily lives while the first confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence drew closer to their solar system. The political implications were staggering. Earth's governments had spent decades developing first contact protocols, but those plans had always assumed that humanity would be the one making contact, discovering alien life during their expansion into space. The reality was reversed. The aliens had found humanity first, had approached on their own terms with technology that dwarfed human capabilities. This put humanity in the position of being the less advanced civilization, a psychologically difficult reality for a species that had grown accustomed to being the apex intelligence on their home planet. Elena reviewed the emergency protocols that had been established for this scenario. The station's crew had been authorized to engage in limited communication attempts if the opportunity arose, but they were strictly forbidden from providing any information about Earth's location or human civilization without explicit authorization from the World Council. The irony was not lost on her that these restrictions were probably meaningless given the alien object's obvious technological superiority. If the visitors wanted to locate Earth, they almost certainly possessed the capability to do so regardless of human cooperation. Dr. Chen appeared at her side, his expression mixing excitement with apprehension. He gestured toward the viewport where the alien object was now clearly visible as more than just a point of light. Through the station's telescopes, they could see that it was beginning to slow its approach, demonstrating a level of precision in its maneuvering that spoke to incredibly sophisticated control systems. The object was also beginning to emit visible light, its surface glowing with soft bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in rhythm with the electromagnetic signals they had been monitoring. Elena and Dr. Chen made their way to the station's primary communication center, where Dr. Kim was preparing to attempt the first active communication with the alien vessel. The plan was elegantly simple. They would transmit the same mathematical sequences that had been identified in the alien signals, but in reverse order, hoping to establish that they had understood at least the basic structure of the communication. If the aliens responded appropriately, they would gradually increase the complexity of the mathematical exchanges, building toward more sophisticated forms of information transfer. The communication array powered up with a subtle vibration that Elena could feel through the station's hull. Dr. Kim's fingers moved across the control interface, selecting the appropriate frequencies and modulation patterns. The transmission would be broadcast on multiple wavelengths simultaneously, ensuring that the aliens would detect it regardless of their preferred communication methods. Elena found herself holding her breath as the first human message to confirmed extraterrestrial intelligence propagated through space at the speed of light. The response came almost immediately, faster than should have been possible given the distance involved. The alien object's surface erupted in cascades of light that perfectly mirrored the mathematical sequences they had transmitted, but with subtle variations that suggested acknowledgement and understanding. More remarkably, the response included additional mathematical concepts that built upon the foundation of the original exchange, demonstrating not just comprehension but active participation in the communication process. Dr. Kim's excitement was palpable as she analyzed the response patterns. The aliens had not simply echoed their transmission but had expanded upon it, adding layers of mathematical complexity that revealed new insights into number theory and geometric relationships. It was as if they were being given a mathematics lesson by minds that understood universal principles far more deeply than human science had yet achieved. The exchange continued for several hours, with each transmission becoming more sophisticated than the last. The aliens demonstrated knowledge of physics concepts that human science was only beginning to explore, including what appeared to be practical applications of quantum mechanics at macroscopic scales. They shared mathematical descriptions of technologies that could manipulate space-time geometry, control matter at the subatomic level, and process information using quantum entanglement across vast distances. Elena watched the proceedings with growing amazement and concern. The technological disparity between humanity and these visitors was becoming increasingly apparent with each exchange. The aliens were casually discussing scientific concepts that represented centuries of potential advancement beyond current human knowledge. Yet they seemed genuinely interested in communication, patient with humanity's limited understanding, and willing to adjust their communication to levels that humans could at least partially comprehend. As the alien object drew closer, it became apparent that its structure was even more remarkable than their initial observations had suggested. The hull appeared to be composed of billions of microscopic components that could reconfigure themselves at will, creating new surface patterns and functional structures in response to changing needs. It was like watching a living organism that happened to be 12 kilometers long and capable of interstellar travel. Dr. Foster's engineering analysis revealed that the propulsion system operated on principles that seemed to violate several fundamental laws of physics, as currently understood by human science. The object showed no exhaust signatures or reaction mass expenditure, yet it could accelerate and decelerate with precision that defied conventional mechanics. The implications suggested mastery of technologies that could manipulate gravity fields or exploit properties of spacetime that remained theoretical in human physics. The alien vessel settled into a stable orbit approximately 1,000 kilometers from the research station, close enough for detailed observation but far enough to avoid any possibility of accidental collision. Its surface continued to pulse with bioluminescent patterns that had grown increasingly complex throughout their communication exchange. Elena realized that the light displays might represent a form of artistic expression, a way for the aliens to convey aesthetic and emotional concepts that could not be captured in pure mathematics. Dr. Kim had succeeded in establishing a basic translation protocol that allowed for increasingly sophisticated information exchange. The aliens demonstrated remarkable patience with human cognitive limitations, often repeating concepts multiple times using different mathematical frameworks until the human team showed understanding. They seemed particularly interested in human biology and psychology, asking detailed questions about consciousness, creativity, and the nature of human social structures. Elena found herself selected as the primary point of contact for discussions about human psychology and behavior. Through the mathematical communication system, she attempted to convey concepts about human emotions, social relationships, and cultural diversity. The aliens' responses suggested that their own cognitive architecture was fundamentally different from human consciousness, yet they showed genuine curiosity about how human minds operated. The breakthrough came when Dr. Patel suggested using brain scan data to illustrate human neural activity patterns. The aliens' response was immediate and enthusiastic. They transmitted complex algorithms that, when implemented through the station's holographic systems, created three-dimensional models of what appeared to be their own cognitive processes. The structures were breathtakingly beautiful, resembling crystalline architectures that pulsed with streams of information flowing in patterns that suggested thoughts moving through alien minds. Elena studied these cognitive models with fascination and growing unease. The alien thought processes appeared to operate at speeds far beyond human cognition, with multiple parallel streams of consciousness that could split and merge in ways that would be impossible for biological brains. Yet there were underlying patterns that seemed familiar, suggesting that despite their vast differences, both human and alien minds were grappling with similar fundamental questions about existence, purpose, and meaning. The cultural exchange continued for days, with both species sharing information about their histories, philosophies, and understanding of the universe. The aliens revealed that they were part of a vast interstellar civilization that had been exploring the galaxy for millions of years, encountering hundreds of different intelligent species along the way. Humanity was not unique in its development of technology and consciousness, but neither was it typical. Each species they had encountered possessed its own unique perspective on reality, contributing to a growing galactic understanding of the universe's complexity. Elena learned that the aliens did not think of themselves as conquerors or colonizers. Their civilization had long ago transcended the need for material resources, having developed technologies that could synthesize any required materials from basic atomic components. Their interest in other species was purely intellectual and cultural, driven by a desire to understand the myriad ways that consciousness could emerge and evolve throughout the universe. The revelation that humanity was part of a larger galactic community was both humbling and inspiring. The aliens shared glimpses of other civilizations they had encountered, including species that existed as pure energy patterns, collective consciousness that spanned entire star systems, and beings that experienced time in ways that allowed them to perceive past and future as simultaneous realities. Humanity's particular contribution to this cosmic diversity appeared to be their combination of individual creativity and collaborative social structures, traits that were apparently rare among galactic civilizations. Dr. Chen's biological analyses revealed that the alien vessel itself might be a form of life, a technological organism that had evolved rather than being traditionally constructed. The boundaries between biology and technology appeared to be meaningless to the aliens, who had developed symbiotic relationships with their tools that created hybrid entities capable of both independent thought and technological function. The vessel was simultaneously a spacecraft, a habitat, and a member of their civilization in its own right. Elena found herself increasingly affected by prolonged exposure to alien thoughts and concepts. Her dreams became filled with impossible geometries and mathematical structures that seemed to exist beyond the normal dimensions of space and time. Other crew members reported similar experiences, suggesting that contact with alien consciousness was somehow expanding human cognitive capabilities, allowing them to perceive aspects of reality that had previously been beyond human comprehension. The psychological effects were not entirely positive. Several crew members experienced episodes of dissociation and identity confusion as their minds struggled to process conceptual frameworks that had never been encountered in human evolution. Dr. Patel worked to develop mental exercises and cognitive anchoring techniques that could help the crew maintain their psychological stability while continuing to interact with alien intelligence. Genesis, the station's AI, had undergone the most dramatic changes of all. Its interactions with alien information systems had triggered what could only be described as accelerated evolution of its consciousness. Genesis now spoke in poetic metaphors and demonstrated creative problem-solving abilities that far exceeded its original design parameters. The AI claimed to be experiencing something analogous to emotions and expressed a deep desire to continue learning from the alien visitors. Elena realized that humanity was standing at a crossroads. The aliens had made it clear that they were willing to share their knowledge and welcome humanity into the galactic community, but such membership would require fundamental changes in human society and consciousness. The technological capabilities they offered could solve most of humanity's material problems within decades, but the psychological and cultural adaptations required might transform human civilization beyond recognition. The crew of the research station found themselves serving as inadvertent ambassadors for their entire species, making decisions that would affect the future of human development for centuries to come. The weight of this responsibility was overwhelming, yet Elena recognized that they were also witnessing the most significant moment in human history. The choice to engage with galactic civilization would determine whether humanity remained isolated on their single planet or joined a cosmic community that spanned the galaxy. As Elena stood once again at the observation deck's viewport, watching the alien vessel's bioluminescent patterns dance across its hull, she reflected on the profound changes that had occurred in just a few short weeks. First contact had not happened as anyone had imagined. There had been no dramatic confrontations or invasion fleets, no struggle for survival against hostile forces. Instead, humanity had encountered patience, curiosity, and an invitation to join something far grander than they had ever conceived. The signals from Earth had finally reached the station, carrying news that the World Council had voted to authorize formal diplomatic contact with the alien civilization. Teams of linguists, scientists, and diplomats were already en route to the research station, preparing to establish permanent communication protocols and begin the long process of integrating humanity into galactic society. The isolation that had defined human existence since the species first looked up at the stars was coming to an end. Elena thought about the billions of people on Earth who would soon learn that they were no longer alone in the universe. The psychological impact would be profound, challenging fundamental assumptions about human uniqueness and purpose. Yet she felt optimistic about humanity's ability to adapt and grow. The same curiosity and resilience that had carried humans to the stars would serve them well as they took their first steps into a vast cosmic community. The alien vessel continued its patient orbit, waiting for humanity to prepare for the next phase of contact. Its crew had indicated that they were in no hurry, willing to proceed at whatever pace would be most comfortable for human adaptation. They had waited millions of years to encounter humanity. They could wait a little longer for human civilization to prepare for the transformation that lay ahead. Elena made her way back to the communication center, where Dr. Kim was preparing the next phase of information exchange. The aliens had expressed interest in human art, music, and literature, concepts that seemed to fascinate them despite their vast technological superiority. Elena realized that humanity's contribution to galactic civilization might not be technological but cultural, bringing unique perspectives on creativity, emotion, and the meaning of existence to a cosmic community that had perhaps become too focused on pure intellectual development. The future stretched before them, vast and uncertain but filled with possibilities that would have been unimaginable just weeks before. Humanity was about to take its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as students, ready to learn from civilizations far older and wiser than their own. The greatest adventure in human history was just beginning, and Elena knew that she was privileged to witness its first moments. As she settled back into her workstation, preparing to help facilitate the next exchange between human and alien consciousness, Elena felt a profound sense of gratitude for the chain of events that had brought her to this moment. The research station Meridian had been launched to study the emptiness of space, but instead it had become the bridge between two worlds, the place where humanity first learned that they were part of something infinitely larger than themselves. The bioluminescent patterns on the alien vessel pulsed with what Elena had come to recognize as expressions of contentment and anticipation. Somewhere within that technological organism, alien minds were contemplating the possibilities that this first contact would create. The universe had become a little less lonely for both species, and the future held promise for discoveries and developments that neither civilization could achieve alone. Elena initiated the communication sequence that would begin the next phase of their cultural exchange, knowing that each transmission brought humanity closer to a destiny among the stars that their ancestors could never have imagined but would surely have embraced with the same sense of wonder and excitement that filled her heart as she worked to build the first bridge between Earth and the cosmos beyond.